Brisbane.
Country mixed with city.
The weather, the people. Sometimes I go to the beach or the mountain.
Brisbane 612 4QR.
ABC News, good evening, I'm Fiona Kerr. Federal Aboriginal Affairs Minister John Herron has welcomed the bipartisan approach of the opposition and Senate minor parties in reaching agreement over changes to ATSEC, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Commission. Parliament has passed a package of reforms to ATSEC, with the government dropping its proposal to be able to appoint a special administrator to replace the ATSEC board. The coalition has also watered down its plan to continue appointing the ATSEC chair. Commissioners will be able to elect the chair from 1999. Chair Lois O'Donoghue has welcomed the compromise, saying it could help heal the rift between the government and Aboriginal people. Senator Herron says the compromise has been reached in the interests of ATSEC and Indigenous people.
There is a bipartisan approach and has been from the beginning. It's just come to fruition today.
Within Tasmania's Aboriginal community, there's a strong move to abolish the Regional Council of ATSEC. Michael Mansell of the Aboriginal Centre says ATSEC's Regional Council is a luxury Tasmania's Aborigines can no longer afford. He says the annual cost of sitting fees for the council is $200,000, which could be well spent helping Aboriginal youth.
The federal government have reduced the Aboriginal Affairs budget in Tasmania, and as a result of that, we've had to lay off staff and other organisations have had to lay off staff. It just seems that we cannot afford the luxury of spending $200,000 on sitting fees for a group of people who, by and large, can have their jobs done by the public service section of ATSEC.
The Liberal candidate for the federal seat of Lindsay in Sydney, Jackie Kelly, has rejected claims her actions have cost taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. Dana Robertson reports there's to be another election after the High Court today declared invalid the result of the March poll.
The courts ordered a new election be held because Jackie Kelly was an invalid candidate at the federal election. The court found she breached the Constitution by holding dual citizenship and being a paid officer of the RAAF at the time of her nomination. Ms Kelly won the seat in March with a 12% swing from former Labor Minister Ross Free. Opposition leader Kim Beazley says the by-election has been brought about because Ms Kelly didn't do her homework and that it would give voters a chance to comment on the government's performance so far. Ms Kelly says the decision is a mere technicality as she left New Zealand when she was 8 years old and resigned her commission with the Air Force last October, but she says the need for royal approval delayed her official discharge.
Iraqi Kurdish refugees have taken 9 United Nations employees hostage in a town on the Iranian border. UN officials say the 9 were seized in the town of Sayirambah, some 140 kilometres northeast of Sulaymaniyah. A crowd of several thousand chanted slogans against the United Nations. Among those taken hostage are a World Food Programme official, a UNICEF official, and an employee of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. Meanwhile, refugees have begun to return to Sulaymaniyah, previously a stronghold of the Kurdish faction, the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan. The city was captured on Monday by the rival Kurdistan Democratic Party. UN officials estimated up to 300,000 Kurds might have left, but many refugees have started returning home, reassured by news that Saddam Hussein's troops hadn't entered the city. Rupert Colville from the United Nations Refugee Agency says the situation's confused.
What appears to be becoming clearer is that the great majority of the people who left Sulaymaniyah actually went to villages near Sulaymaniyah, where they have family or relatives, and obviously had some sort of immediate support system, maybe as a kind of first stop to just see what would happen. And since the city was quiet, it fell, virtually without any fighting, it may just be that a lot of those people will now go back.
Despite India's refusal to sign the Global Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, the 157 nations who signed the pact believe it will eventually come into force. Claiming it wouldn't stop simulated nuclear testing by the major powers, India voted against the treaty, effectively stopping the agreement from coming into effect. Despite this, many world leaders, including New Zealand Prime Minister Jim Bolger, believe the pact will discourage all forms of nuclear testing.
What we've done as a world community now is move one step further along the goal towards the eventual elimination of nuclear weapons. It's not the end of the road, but it's a very, very big step forward. And what New Zealand and other countries want to do is to keep it moving.
This is ABC News.
Good evening, Samantha Mason, continuing with the Queensland news. The Environmental Defender's Office is looking at documents relating to the federal government's approval of the Port Hinchinbrook development near Cardwell in North Queensland. The documents were tabled in the Senate today by Environment Minister Robert Hill. The Democrats have referred the documents to the Environmental Defender's Office for analysis, saying they could form the basis of a legal challenge to the government's decision. The Democrats' John Woodley says the documents suggest that the minister may not have had the authority to approve the project.
It really will rest on an interpretation of those documents to see whether or not the minister really had the kind of authority he claimed to go ahead and grant permission for the resort.
Queensland's Environment Minister Brian Littleproud says he's discussing the issue of tyre exemptions for farmers' off-road vehicles with the rural industry. Amanda Walker reports this is despite Treasurer Joan Sheldon telling State Parliament unregistered vehicles would be exempt from the charges.
The levy announced in a state budget includes a $4.50 levy on tractor tyres to fund recycling schemes, expected to take effect from January. Mrs Sheldon confirmed unregistered vehicles used on farms will be exempt from the levy, but Mr Littleproud says the issue is still to be discussed with his department and with the rural industry.
Meanwhile, Mr Littleproud has stated that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people may be exempt from paying new national park fees. Mr Littleproud says special arrangements may need to be made for Aborigines and Torres Strait Islanders because of laws relating to access for native hunting and fishing in national parks. He says guidelines should be in place by the time the fees are implemented in March next year.
Yeah, that's still being negotiated. We're still looking at some of the legislation that pertains to native title and the Nature Conservation Act. And in both those there's reference to Indigenous people, and that's still got to be negotiated.
The Queensland Teachers Union says the state budget isn't a good one for TAFE teachers, tutors and students. The union says increases in student fees and a reduction in funds are attributable to the state government policy of running vocational education and training on purely economic principles. The Teachers Union says country TAFE teachers have been totally ignored by their minister when it comes to staffing incentives which have been gained by teachers in schools. MIM says it will save millions of dollars by signing 3 deals with TEAS contractors to play an important operating role in 3 of its Queensland operations. Ian Keane reports MIM and TEAS contractors signed the deals worth about $225 million in Brisbane today.
The contracts mean TEAS will be undertaking major roles at the Oakey Creek and Collinsville coal mines, as well as the Ernest Henry copper and gold mine in northwest Queensland. MIM says its capital costs on those projects have now been eliminated. In other words, it doesn't have to buy any of that big expensive mining equipment. It would have cost tens of millions of dollars to re-equip the Collinsville mine alone, a sum of money that might have put the project out of financial bounds.
FlightWest Airlines has increased its capacity on several of its key routes. The purchase of a new $8 million Brasilia aircraft has allowed the airline to provide improved services on its Brisbane, Biloela, Townsville, Cairns and Mount Isa, Cloncurry, Townsville routes. The company also plans to employ an extra 6 pilots and 6 flight attendants based in Townsville. Wildlife carers in Western Queensland are being swamped with orphan joeys as the dry season forces kangaroos to the sides of the roads where they're killed by cars. In the Bowen Basin, Glendon carer Di Wells is nursing 7 baby joeys. She says many people don't realise joeys often survive a car crash only to starve to death in their dead mother's pouch.
What a way to die. They should be aware that the animals are on the move at the moment. It's that time of the year, and it's also the time of the year when most of the mums are carrying joeys in their pouch. So when they do hit something or see something on the side of the road, they need to check the pouch because those little joeys will survive for up to 3 days in a mum's pouch.
In rugby league, Canberra Raiders prop John Lomax says he won't be making any comment at this stage about reports that he'll link up with the North Queensland Cowboys next season. Lomax has reportedly been granted a release by the Raiders, but the New Zealand forward says it hasn't been finalised. The weather, there's a strong wind warning for coastal waters between Double Island Point and Coolangatta for tomorrow. Hot and freshening north to northwesterly winds over southern districts ahead of a cooler southwesterly change, reaching the Channel Country tonight and spreading across the southern interior tomorrow. Brisbane, Ipswich, the Gold and Sunshine Coast fine, a high fire danger and a possible thunderstorm late tomorrow. Brisbane's temperature range 11 to 30 degrees.